I was raised in a very religious home. I wasn't like fascinated by anything really growing up besides music.
To this day, I could sit in a room and listen to David Bowie all day, and that could be it. I'd be perfectly happy.
Could you say it's an influence for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And T-Rex, Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, New York Dolls. Really from like what was then considered like a glitter. It was the glitter thing.
That's when I knew I wanted to do music. See people like Bowie and Alice Cooper and Mott the Hoople and the New York Dolls on a stage and just taking it to this level that it hadn't been taken to before.
When I was very small, I had problems with my family and stuff, and this kind of got me thinking, well, I've created it myself, but this woman this old woman would come and just sit at the foot of my bed every night and just like, sit there and look at me and kind of comfort me until I fell asleep. And at the time I knew she wasn't real, but I could see her, it helped me fall asleep and helped me forget about all the problems of the day,
And then, of course, then punk came around, and that quite appealed to me as well, so I kind of got to the end of elementary and like junior high, and so I was just kind of more of a loner. Basically, the only reasons I went to school were to, like, meet up with a couple of friends and then ditch school. Me and James have been playing together for a little while. James had met Rozz first, and I had seen Rozz around at various different gigs in LA and different places like that. James came to me and said, "Hey, look, I found this guy that would probably be a good thing to get together with." And I said, "Okay," and we went over, we talked, and everything seemed to be pretty cool. Kicked several names around, including Christian Death, and we looked at each other one day and said, "Yeah, Christian Death, that's what it's going to be." He had this guy named Jay that played guitar, and he was really bad stage fright. Things that weren't working out with him being in the band. So we told Rozz that Jay had to go. And Rozz kind of at first said, I've known Jay for a long time, and, screw you guys. So we said, okay, fine.
It was meeting Rozz Williams that changed everything. When I was in this program, when I was the second year, when I was 17, and when we'd come back, they would drop us off at Claremont, and there were some people in the program that was like, "Whoa, this band is rehearsing in this garage, Christian Death." When Christian Death took a hiatus, we started doing premature ejaculation, PE. you need triggers once a physical mutilation happened would trigger right into that space. Like I'd have to do something to my body, then suddenly this nervousness, this idea that I was performing suddenly wasn't true. I wasn't performing.
I joined the band after about the third show. They had opened the show for us when we were in the adolescence, when I was at being ready to be booted out, basically. And they impressed me very much, very different, the longer hair, you know, the kind of deathly kind of thing, the slower kind of eerie music.
The only problem was it just sounded like Black Sabbath to me because the guitar player had no creativity. You know, he just played chords along with the notes. And I'm thinking, God, if I had this band, I would just get keyboards. I would just like use, you know, the guitar thing and everything and just really go to town with it. And then so I talked to the guy, to James and George afterwards and exchanged numbers and everything. And 2 weeks later is when I got kicked out of the adolescence. I see, this is what a big baby I was. Not only did I like, you know, well, fuck them guys, the adolescents. Then I was like, you know what? Fuck punk, fuck all this shit, man. I just like really took a, you know, just an anger. I had an anger issue with that whole thing.
And Rick kind of looked at me and said, well, would you consider me playing with you and James? Oh, James about it. James said, yeah, let's do it, you know.
Cool.
So we called up Rick, and he came up to where we had a studio built and started jamming together, and there was some really good, just the chemistry with Rick picked up right off the bat again. Rick songs that we had written, the Christian death material and stuff like that. So I called Rozz up and I said, you know, we're working on this on all the Christian death tunes and a bunch of other ones and a bunch of new stuff, and Rick's got a bunch of songs. Would you be interested in coming up checking it out? He said, yes. We picked him up. He came to the rehearsal with us, and he liked everything he was hearing. He said, yeah, let's go.
I just wanted to make, you know, the band into something that everybody would hate, that would get the original reaction that punk used to get, because punk, I felt, was becoming accepted to a point where it wasn't challenging anymore. We would write the music. He'd hardly ever come to a rehearsal. It was just the three of us, me, George, and James. And there was a couple times before we recorded the album where he'd come over or before a show and rehearse. And what he would do is he would just sit on like a stool or something and he'd have his book out and his hair, you know, and he'd light a cigarette. And then we'd start playing the music and he would just have his book of lyrics and he would just kind of smoke and just finger through them. He wouldn't sing nothing.
When there was a group of people around that were like, oh, look, it's Rozz, he would always try to put on this you know, Mr. Artiste. Very artistic, straightforward, didn't giggle, didn't laugh. And he used to, in fact, he used to get so mad he'd hit me. He'd go, damn it, you know, because he put this big facade on and I'd come up and just be me. We didn't have a lot of people hanging around. We were pretty much like a family, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we did a lot of stuff together. We went to art shows together. We went to other bands' gigs together. I mean, we just hung out together all the time, you know?
Right.
And there wasn't very much outside influence coming into the band at all.
Then we had our, you know, our graveyard ritual before shows and stuff. We'd go to the graveyard, we'd, you know, take like statues or floral things, you know, and stuff like that, and bring them for the stage.
I thought about other things because of the religious aspect and dreams, which I find very important to waking life, you know, at the time were considered to be of the devil.
did a lot of acid then. That's how we came up with a lot of the songs. And we recorded the album on acid as well.
It was Rozz's turn to record. He was gonna lay down his vocal tracks, and so James, George, and I, and Tom Wilson were in the engineering room, and then Rozz and his boyfriend at the time, Ron Affey, were in the vocal room. And so we're in there, and then we start this tapes from the beginning, and he went straight through the whole album, first take, like just next, and it was sounding insanely incredible. We'd never heard him sing like that before. Before that, he just kind of talked barely audible to the songs. We're like, where the hell? Wow, we were just so stoked. But when it was all said and done, and it was over, it's like, Tom Wilson goes, Rozz, come on in, man. You got to listen to this. You nailed it. He stays in there, and we're all like, Rozz, and Ron comes running out of there, and he goes, hey, she's not very happy right now. She's very angry, and I don't want to be in the same room with her. He's going, Rozz, her. And we go, what's up? Like that. And he goes, and he was in there, that room. We couldn't see him through the window. Okay, so we play back. We go, let's listen to it. But so we play it back, but there's no vocal tracks. None. I mean, we were recording everything and stuff just to make sure, because we were so excited about it. I mean, they were responding. It was getting laid down on tape, the whole thing. We're like, what the hell? So Tom checked a bunch of stuff. He checked a bunch of connections. He, went through everything. I mean, he'd been doing it for like 22 years. And it's like, he goes, oh, wait a minute. Let me check one more thing. And he goes out there. And he comes back in, and he's white as a ghost. He goes, what? That wasn't... I don't know what to explain, what to do. We all looked at each other, and all of a sudden the room got like kind of cold, and it got real bright kind of, and our ears plugged up. And we all just kind of looked at each other, and we looked in that room where Rozz was, and it looked like there was like flames or something reflecting, but no actual fire, but like almost as if there was fire back from reflecting a shadow onto the wall. And we just went like... And we all just fucking start screaming like women. We screamed like ladies, and we went running out of the studio, down the hall, all the way outside the Sunset Gower, and just stood out there going, what the hell? Recorded it another day, and what you hear is what you heard.
I mean, when the first album came out with Christian Death, I was like terrified that they find it. I tried hiding it while I went away for a while, and I came back and they had found it and listened to it. They're like, well, we really like the music, but we don't quite understand where you're coming from with the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, well, you should understand perfectly well.
Once he hit the stage, boom, he was there. And he projected a charisma that was unlike anybody. He'd just stand there in this wedding dress, not even move. And we could have been doing triple somersaults over each other in back of him and stuff, and people still think that.
We went on for about a good year, did the album, played a lot of shows in LA, became kind of like, LA's, personal pet band.
Did you learn anything about yourself during your time in Christian Death?
That I definitely had a very, very dark side.
Were you more at peace with yourself during the time you were in Christian Death?
Oh, no. Those are very, very scary times, It's just because it was dark and it was dabbling, and that which shouldn't really be dabbled with unless you know what you're doing.
Then just personal problems arose.
After the Only Theater Pain album was recorded, things really started going downhill.
Just really, things got really bad, really scary. But it's a true story, but it sounds kind of like conjured up. But I was having like a lot of night terrors, a lot of visits, from forces that did not feel good whatsoever. It basically scared the shit out of me to a point where it was just like, I can't do this anymore.
See, the early days, there wasn't so much of a drug scene that really started becoming a problem.
He had a boyfriend named Ron at the time, Ron Nathy, and they were like really heavily into doing heroin and stuff. And we were supposed to do a U.S. tour, and they were talking about how they were going to, bring an ounce of heroin with them and all this stuff. And I'd never been on a tour yet. And I was thinking the old nightmare of the Smokey and the Bandit nightmare, that he had a truck stop and had, truckers or whatever and stuff look at these guys and go like, okay, because they didn't care who saw them or how they were acting and stuff like that. I just pictured them, running in, holding hands, dressed all baked up and everything like that and just being whatever. And then getting the attention of the local authorities and then them searching the bus, finding the heroin and, locking up and throwing away the key, So I just pictured that and I had a meltdown, just quit.
All this dark image when you are on the stage, do you think that it's an essence of Rozz Williams? It's an important part of him?
Yeah, it's almost as though for me to go on stage is really a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've created another person that I can go on stage with, and all of that's a part of that. I'm not the same person right now as I would be if I was going on stage.
We will see.
Got a phone call from this French label, invitation to suicide. He was like, I'd love to bring you over to Europe and do a tour and record a new album. I was the one that was originally contacted to get Christian Death back together, because at that time there was no Christian Death, it was completely dissolved. He said, look, I want you guys to get back together, and I want to bring you guys over here. I was still doing Christian Death, but had a lot of musicians, including myself, who were far too involved in the drug world at the time to be worrying about doing shows. But we did one show out here in LA, and Compass 99 open.
Love me for my mind. Love me for my mind. 'Cause I'm almost one of a kind.
I thought, well, you know, I liked Tom's voice and, you know, some of the stuff that was going on. You know, when we met after the shows and kind of hung out for a while. I called up James. James said, "Yeah, I'm good to go on it." Rick said, "Yeah, I'm good to go on it." And you know, let's see what Rozz. You know, go ahead, call up Rozz. See what Rozz wants to do. So I told Rozz about it. I said, "Rozz, this is the deal." Da 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 da. And Rozz says, "Well, let me talk to the guy. I will give me the guy's number and I'll call him and I'll let you know what we're going to do." So I said, "Okay." So I give Rozz the guy's number. At that time, I had split with the rest of my band, and so I was like, well, hey, you know, do you guys want to, you know, become part of Christian Death for a while, and we'll go over to Europe and see the sights, do an album, and see how it goes from there. Rozz took them to Europe. Oh, man. Instead of us. I'll be real blunt with you. At first, I wanted to strangle. When we were rehearsing to do the last show that we did together for the live album that we did, he just told me he was sorry, that he shouldn't have done it. And I thought that's cool, you know. I think that ended up becoming more of a thorn in his side than it did mine.
Okay, you just saw Christian Death here on Media Blitz, and Ross, why don't you introduce the rest of the band here?
This is Constance, bass, Jaton, keyboards, Valor, guitar, and David, drums.
Okay, and what were those songs that you just did?
Cavity and Romeo's Distress.
And who writes your most of your stuff?
No, I have no idea.
Well, right now, Rozz writes all lyrics, and we just kind of are putting together some new material at the moment.
Doing it as far as your plans to go on from here.
From here, from America.
Sure.
We're going to London to record an album. Well, actually, we're going to play San Francisco and New York on the way. But when we get to London, we're
along the way.
So we're going to record an album in Wales. It's at the same studio that Bauhaus and Echo and the Bunnymen and bands like that did. It's a good sound, you know, so it's nice out on the farm, and Wales is beautiful, so we're just going to milk cows and eat grass and
Do you kind of like that sound? the Bauhaus type sound and everything?
I don't know. I think I've ever heard maybe a couple of songs of Bauhaus and Echo and the Bunnymen, but from what I heard, it sounded pretty good, and the record company thinks that the studio is going to be able to give us the sound that we want, so they just better be right.
Okay. Well, good luck on your on your future plans, and thanks for coming down and doing the show. And next on Media Blitz, we'll have Flipside doing the record reviews.
And he asked absolutely no good questions.
Decadence and sane, I stood by the wall. Thought I'd left myself at home. Thought I'd turn my back to stone. But all the strangers knew my name, all but one who turned away.
Footsteps are to believe in, and then we hold back. We're so anchored on the family, we all bow down. One chance to face, keep walking. Take off your face. You learn to trust my dry hands. We hide from sound paintings on distant walls. We hide from hotel lights on empty floors. We hide our bent husbands behind slamming doors. Don't run to the window, because burning glass walls. We stand still, then we stand like all. We are alone. We stand still. Leave me alone. It's all fake, just me. You're so gorgeous.
Rozz, you seem to be a celebrity here tonight. I want to find out about life in Fontana.
This is like real people or something.
This is for degenerate radio.
Everybody got one?
I have to go talk to somebody.
We all sat down, had a meeting. I was like, I love all of you guys, I love what we've done, but I need to go off and do something different now, just for my own well-being. And we talked about it and stuff, and Valor was like, oh, okay, well, we'll call it The Sin and Sacrifice will be the name of this band then. I was like, okay, that's fine, fine. But then of course that became The Sin and Sacrifice of Christian Death, which then became just Christian Death. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, you can't do music that you wrote that we were doing together, It's like, hey, that's your music, do whatever you want with it. But the name Christian Death was mine when he took it over. Pretty much pissed me off, and then also hearing that he was doing songs from Only Theater of Pain, which, excuse me, like 2 years before I even knew Valor.
Yeah.
I'm just doing things for myself and hoping that people can get some enjoyment or some education out of what I'm doing.
With most infections, there is a spectrum of response by the person who's infected.
Like around 77, 78, she was doing Speed Queen, and I just thought they were great, and I took a kind of fancy to Eva especially, and one night after a show at the Hong Kong Cafe, I went up and tried to speak to her, tried to introduce myself, and I was like, hi, my name's Rozz, and I just wanted to tell you that I thought your show was great tonight. You have a great voice, you play guitar great. And she was like, oh, okay, thanks. Away. But then we met like a week later at a party, and then she told me that I reminded her of Jesus, and she fell in love, and me and her and my lover at the time moved in together. Worked on various projects.
Although she had played guitar in Christian Death for a short period of time, and she did backing vocals on our first album, and so off and on we had been doing things together.
In 1987, I think in San Francisco. Eve and I were living in San Francisco at the time after moving from Los Angeles. I think both of us kind of felt that what we were seeing around us was becoming like really stagnant. There wasn't much of a scene or anything else going on. For a while, we both had stopped doing musical projects, and I think by going to San Francisco, we kind of figured out that no matter where it was that we went to run to, whether it's Los Angeles, San Francisco, whatever, there was still nothing happening in our eyes. So we had to create something for ourselves to work through.
And we were writing material and figured, well, you know, what's the point in writing the material if we're not going to do something with it? So that's when we decided to form Shadow Project.
Halloween '89, around that time, a friend of mine named Mike, he is a promoter, and he calls me up. He always comes up with these wacky ideas, you know, it's like, what? And his idea was, you know, he calls me up and goes, hey, you know, I'd like to do a reunion with the original Christian Death. Let's try it out, you know? And I'm all, I haven't talked to those guys for years. I have no idea where they are. And then I thought, well, you know, then he gave me a bargain, you know. I mean, he gave me a offer I couldn't refuse, basically, so I, you know, did some detective work and finally got a hold of, you know, just about everybody. The original drummer, George, is now a born-again Christian, so he was out of the car instantly because, you know, he didn't want to do it. James I couldn't find. Finally did. He was hell tracking down, and
what happened with him?
he was just hard to find because, like, it'd been years, and so all my numbers were, you know, moot. All my phone numbers. Then Rozz, I finally got a hold of. We decided, kept calling around trying to find Rozz, couldn't find him, and I thought, well, let's go to LA and just ask around, look around, see if we know anybody. And so we went into Vinyl Fetish, the record store, and just out of a whim, there's this long red-haired guy. Asked, you know, what the hell? Asked him, and sure enough, you know, he'd been talking to Rozz. You know, he's a friend of Rozz's. You know, so we go, great. So we got a hold of him, and then, you know, he, you know, heard the offer, and he said, okay. And then we did that reunion show. I called a friend of mine, Doug Karen, to book, you know, a couple shows like that. It ended up just turning into this full-blown tour.
He had some guy call up a booking agent and tell the booking agent that we have no rights to the name, that there is a Christian Death that is playing, that has been playing, that has continued to make records. We said, okay, we did a couple of shows as Christian Death, and then we flipped it over and did shows as Dacus Karada.
We're going to do it a little different.
A little bit of the vibe, a little bit of the friction came back. There started being a little bit of friction with Rick. Me and James just kind of were sitting there looking at each other. There started being a little bit of friction with Rick and everything, so we had to bring in another guy to play guitar.
I want to see you back here, you fucking asshole. Come back here. Come back here.
Rozz was kind of going back into his binge period where he liked to get loaded all the time and not be real serious about music. And so we just kind of looked at each other. We didn't break up. We just kind of drifted away for a little while.
This next one's called Holy Hell. It was about a few dead friends of ours.
Shadow Project is not a musical group in as much as it is a state of mind. Shadow Project rejects the limitations of this world. The world in which we operate has no limitations, no boundaries, no walls. The world in which we operate is beyond good and evil, for they are one and the same. As a race of frail humans, we lie to ourselves and others every moment of every day. We are allowing time to be stolen from us.
What influences you to write songs?
Basically the whole gamut of everything. Just waking up and going outside is an inspiration for me. A lot of the things that I write personally,
Life itself in general, the way people are, the way the world is.
Personally, I believe that, I have my own world. I see what I want to see. That's generally what I go from. I see what I want to see. A lot of times it's not what I want to see, though. So I have to have an outlet to put that out. I need to be able to get that out of my system, because a lot of times there are really ugly, horrible things around me that I wouldn't choose to have there. And there's really no other way for me to get rid of them. I could go around killing people, which necessarily isn't a bad thing, but I'm personally not at a level that I want to do that right now. So I have to kill my demons on a different level right now.
I don't know what to think about Middle America.
Well, tell us your name.
My name is Rozz Williams, and I'm the vocalist for Shadow Project.
I'm Eva, the guitar player, singer.
I'm Paris, keyboards and samplers.
Everyone knows that Rozz is from Machine Death, and Eva, you're from the superheroines and all these different... What really influences, all of you coming together from different backgrounds, what kind of influences outside from each other have really created the Shadow Project sound?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's mainly emotions and the way life is.
Personal experience.
Yeah, personal experience that created the sound of Shadow Project.
So, other than that, what kind of music do you yourselves listen to get this, I don't want to describe the sound, you guys have a sound of all your own.
Pink Floyd, Lydia Lunch, David Bowie, Charles Manson, Martin Denny. It's like, I don't know.
I was wondering, do you feel that that's good, that there's a sense of support amongst the LA scene rather than being a rivalry?
I find so much rivalry in any working situation. It's like normally clubs don't want to help out bands. They're only interested in making more money for their club. Bands don't want to help out each other. They're only interested in making themselves bigger, And to me, that camaraderie is really important, and that's what made, from, I guess, where a lot of us started from musically, that whole camaraderie was there at that time, and now it's diminished. It's hardly there at all. It's really hard to find people who will work together with you and not, come off with an attitude like, oh, well, we have to headline, or we have to do this, or we have to do that, and we're the only ones who can be in the dressing room and all this shit, And it's ridiculous. People, music is music, and you should help each other, and there should be a camaraderie there, but I don't see much of it anymore, and nobody likes being real people anymore. Everybody wants to just, fuck everybody over, and that's ridiculous to me. There's no room for that. It's stupid. I mean, well, you're laughing because you heard me on the way over in the car saying that I wanted to kill everyone in the world, but you have different emotions each minute.
Yeah.
At a certain point, he said, Boyd, I used to stalk you in San Francisco. I knew the restaurant you ate at every single day, and you always ate at the same place at the same time. And at the time, he was married to Ava O, and he would tell her, I'm going down to the video store. And he said, I would stand across the street and watch you eat your salad every day before your fettuccine al pesto came. And he said he would always stay out at least an hour or so, and then he'd come back with these videos, and Ava O would say, you weren't getting videos, you were watching Boyd Rice eat a salad, weren't you?
On the Evo Halo Experience video, you're being interviewed, and while you're being interviewed, you're holding a baby doll.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there's any symbolism, or if so, what is there behind that?
Well, I would say that it was more my child than Eva's.
Uh-huh.
Eva was kind of afraid of Junior.
Uh-huh.
I had a very fond attachment to Junior. I've always been one to collect things and a bit of a pack rat in that. I mean, there are like some friends, well, I call them friends, who are, well, I mean, if you were generally to look at them, they're inanimate objects. But to me, I call them my friends because they have a life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they have a soul, but they have a life. I guess a lot of people would say, well, you've created that life for them, but not necessarily so. They've told me their life stories. So.
Put your money on the table, bastard, whether your autopsies before. This is the man killer. Plug him into the wall. Fist up his ass. She wasn't there to save her. She didn't even hear her baby call her.
We're supposed to do one more in LA and that'll be it, and then everybody can go their own ways.
Rick was pretty much responsible for getting this, for actually starting the ball rolling. Rick had called me up, we started hanging around together. One day I went to pick him up at his apartment, he was on the phone with Rozz. And I walked in the door and he said, "Hey," I said, "Who are you on the phone with?" He looked at me and he wrote down on a notepad. And I started laughing. I said, "Tell him today." And he said, "Guess who's here?" And Ross said, "He says, George." And he goes, "Oh, hey," you know. And Rick looked at me and said, "What do you think about doing another Christian Death show?" And I said, "Cool." When the lights came up on stage, all I could see was heads to every corner. I think the final count was there was close to 3,000, at least another 1,000 outside.
The flesh is scarce revolve, children of the past, and the aging fingers cast off shadow of death, the shadow of death. It makes a sharp comes in mind through the eyes. You say, shit down skin on your eyelids back. Makes the spectators pity to the eye, with roses and kindness sympathize eye. Dishonoring women that dance with freeze on a side road, your vision perspective, they're turning to stone. Cabaret slideshow. Throw away your shoes! I love my
It was a character from a book, and the author was on opium, and saw this vision of this person named Docus Carota. He had, in place of his heart, like a bunch of grapes, and mandrake roots instead of feet, so every time he walked he'd have to unplant and replant himself again.
Okay.
And I liked the idea of that, you know, just the growth pattern of you know, getting to where you're going and completing it and then moving ahead.
I was curious, were you surprised at the different direction that Jeton took when she went on her own?
After she had left the pathetic rendition of what was supposed to be called Christian death?
Correct.
I wasn't too surprised, because I knew that Jeton was always interested in venturing out, and a lot of her musical influences come from the blues and jazz, and so no, I wasn't surprised with it. I was surprised she left that crappy band. I'm very proud of her for doing, very happy that she did.
Such a mean little angel. You left me so hollow inside. You crushed my heart, but the dream remains. Yes, it does, now I see you and I'm kissing loud enough. You stand before me. Your velvet wings shed so heavenly there, hover in my You're a devil in my heart, the price of my pain. The fire within me, but my love remains.
was really created right in the studio. Everything was just kind of spur of the moment. Yeah, the only two songs that we had planned to do was Another Dream of a Heartache and Manic Depression. Everything else, one day Rozz just said, hey, I want to put Flowers on the CD. And while he was teaching the bass player Flowers, I then recorded These Vulnerable Eyes. It was very improvised, actually.
Right.
The whole album, we set out to do something that was fun. But it's really it's like a statement on the human condition, and trying to keep a spark of hope alive.
Right.
The whole thing came out in a totally different way.
You blew my mind.
It's really one of my favorite pieces, but it was just so personal, the whole experience of writing it. Those are like the most personal, introspective looks at myself. So it's kind of weird when you're like, oh, well, other people are getting hear that too.
Was it a good healing method?
Oh yeah, it was. Actually, I think it's about the only thing that really saved me at that point was sitting down and writing out this stuff.
Electronic babble, shove off with thine elastic attitude. You condescending fuckhole, you tiny little prick. You don't have the persuasion to crash down my power of hope with rationalization.
Would you care to talk about where you stand religiously? Because I know that, there's so many religious topics that are discussed throughout your albums. And I was just wondering if you'd care to talk about, where you stand.
Well, where I stand religiously is I have a personal relationship with God, and has nothing to do with anybody else. It has nothing to do with me having to be in church every Sunday, or it's just something that I've found in my life that's been able to take it in a better direction, and that I've been longing for quite some time, actually, as well. And finally, came to the conclusion, well, yeah, I do believe in God. Went through a lot of religious bullshit growing up, and turning away from it, and completely becoming a Satanist, and now I'm like, why run from one end of the rope to the other? It's like, I know they both exist, and so, yeah, it's like I can still, dream about Jeffrey Dahmer and watch my Charles Manson videos, but they're incredibly wonderful people who have a lot to say. But that doesn't mean that, to me, that there's anything satanic about that. That's just people. We're talking about individuals here.
Right.
1334 was the year of the Black Plague. And I feel that we're going through that same sort of era now, with AIDS, with a lot of different diseases, and that it is a pretty plague-ridden society in 1996, that it might as well be 1334.
The sun said I was wrong to dream that way. I was wrong to dream that way. And some made light of death and sorrow. Light of death and sorrow. But death is glory now. Death is glory now.
He was a very protective, very private individual, and he was very protective of himself because he needed to be. It finally took him a long time to learn to protect himself. He used to give so much of himself out that he'd get burned, and he'd get used, and he'd get slapped in the face.
Very slowly. Well, this is my favorite sad story. Forget me not, or I'll forget myself. I've got quite a few things that I'm afraid of. Sometimes I just can't face myself, and
Shadow Project album coming out.
Is there?
But it's probably going to be a bit down the line because it's taking a lot longer than we thought that it was going to. So, but yeah, we're doing that together. And
what the fuck is this on the back of your...
It's Jeffrey.
It's what?
Jeffrey Dahmer as a boy. He's beautiful. Have you ever read any books about him?
I have not, really.
Where this picture came from was from the book his father wrote. His father's a pig. The only reason that he wrote the book was to make money off of him. But there's this beautiful Polaroid shot of him on Halloween dressed as a devil with his best friend who was also dressed as a devil. So I asked someone to paint this photographic.
The idea for this film, whose idea was it entirely?
Well, entirely, I can't say it's Rozz. Because Rozz written the original story, and then I worked 2 months, I guess, with him on the script. So we kind of did it together, a collaboration. He talking about the movie, what he wanted to do, and me writing the script, actually. And I included some scenes which weren't in his original idea.
so we're kind of like co-directing, but the story is from a story of mine. And I can give you the title of the film, which is Pig. And basically it's the story of a killer and his victim. But it goes a bit deeper than that, but... It's a short film, but, well, about 45 minutes to an hour. Just black and white, and then I have a soundtrack that I gotta do to that.
Are you the starring member?
Well, yeah, there's just 2 of us.
Oh, it's
cast.
Are you the killer or the?
Yes, I am. I'm kind of living my fantasy world out on film.
There's this door, you will see it in the movie, and strangely enough, we made this door. It took us like 3 days to make it. He was telling me what to put on it. It's a big collage. It's a life-size door he made into an art piece, but he put it in storage, and he didn't pay his bills in time, and it happened before with him. And that door and lots of his other personal belongings just disappeared, which is sad, you know.
Yeah.
One of Ross's best friends, Eric Christidis.
Right.
He died 3 months, or well, I guess 4 months before Rozz committed suicide. And Rozz was still, you know, around that time, before he died, he was still very upset with it.
Yeah, they were best of friends.
Yeah. I hanged out with him like the last 1.5 years of his life, nearly daily. He had no addiction, so I don't know what you're talking about, really. I mean, he liked to drink and party, but he didn't took any drugs at all these years.
I believe it was Chetan described Rozz as an angel.
Well, he's an angel now.
He's an angel now, yes.
I think he was a devil sometimes.
Oh, really?
when when he was having fun, he would go all the way.
Oh, wow.
But he was a great, humorous person as well.
Yeah.
Very special person.
Right.
And very talented in many ways.
I'd like to say something at the beginning of this first. And this is solely for Eric, not for any of you, but solely for Eric. There's no love lost, forgotten at any cost. This dream will never fade. Raid the gates of heaven, and love will meet you there. Wings, my child, wings always belong to you. The fiddle played on while burning. There is more left in the bowl, a full mouth full. Soon to be sick, this servant of God, crying and known to fulfill insolent tempers. A city in which we live dreams. Triumph on the back of this steel. Climb higher, which he has. Let the sun shine on him. Let the rain fall on him. As all mortals perish, sleep in peace. We are amateurs, all of us, water in our hands.
Goodbye, dream heart. Insane stranger on the shore. There is no one left here.
Eva and I have talked quite a lot, and she said that he would mention it a lot on occasions to her,
You mean about killing himself or hanging himself?
Right.
Well, I don't know what Eva's saying or what Eva had to say about stuff, but she may have felt like, okay, yeah, I expected it or whatever, but I don't really, nobody, you can't really expect
Right.
to do that. I mean, no, and it's something you didn't, you were hoping that he wouldn't actually. You would think that he would be able to pull himself up out of that, because like I said, my last conversations that I had with him were very good.
Yeah.
Were really, really good. I talked to a guy that was with him the day before he killed himself, and he said that he was in good spirits and had a really good attitude and was and he said that he was feeling pretty good, that he wasn't feeling well, and that he'd been to a doctor and he didn't know what the doctor or what was the soon to be or what was going on with the doctor or anything.
It's hard to talk about it.
Yeah.
But he actually left a message the day before he died on my answering machine, like in the middle of the night, but sadly I was already sleeping. I think he called like 4 o'clock at night, and he just left a message that he was very depressed and he needed to talk with somebody. And he actually talked with another friend of him, and he was telling her, after I spoke with her later, that he was planning to commit suicide and he didn't know, he was getting scared. And the next day, actually, I was planning to see a movie with him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was getting worried because I was calling him and nobody was picking up the phone, and we were planning to go to this movie at 2 o'clock and he didn't pick up the phone, so I called like 10 times. And then his roommate came home at 5 o'clock, I guess, and he heard all the messages on the answering machine. He was wondering what was going on. He knew he was going to this movie with me, and he actually, was like, what's going on? So then he found out that Ross's door was locked, and he broke the door open and he found him.
Bye.